I said I was smarter than it at the time, but the Starfield controversy has really put a light on certain events for me. I played Cyberpunk 2077 on PS4, on release, the same way that you play with a broken down car at the junkyard. Certain parts work, the story hits, and you can roleplay, but if someone loved it, it probably wouldn't be here. Crashes, terrible frame rate, and bugs made it nearly unplayable, which clashes with the Cyberpunk 2077 was always good sentiment. But the problem was that it actually was good. You just had to constantly tug back and forth with these issues to enjoy it, and when the game did crash, you'd at least get the cutest little bug report. I'm still in awe that I played this. Finding old footage of this PS4 playthrough was like finding your grandpa's gun and being surprised by the funny logo on it. And oh god, I think this is awesome. Part of me still thinks it was awesome back then, but it was evil. It was fucking evil. Cyberpunk 2077 is up there with Red Dead Redemption 2 as one of my favorite stories. The setting is deep, interesting, the neon lights make each character pop, there's detail around every corner, and just as you're about to get immersed, an invisible car hits you and it's like, thanks, Choomba. For a logline, I'd call Cyberpunk 2077 an immersive RPG that lends itself more to the immersion than it does role-playing. The game is set in Night City, hell on Earth run by both corporate scum that hate you and seedy criminal gangers that hate you. They just have yet to realize that all the laws in the world won't save them from someone who is level 30. Before we get into 2077 though, I need to introduce you to today's sponsor. And I'll give you a hint, it is Cyberpunk related, but also I don't think any human would expect this, so I'll give you a few seconds to guess. This video is sponsored by Wanted Dead. Anyone who's heard of this game, I hope you know me well enough to know that this is right up my alley. It's a hack and slash game developed by the people behind Dead or Alive and Ninja Gaiden, starring an honest-to-God female cyborg with a heavy accent that has killing animations that are honestly way too damn good. The combat is specifically designed to evoke the PS3 and Xbox era of shooters, meaning that it's happy to kill you and kill you and kill you. The game evokes a cyberpunk haha early 90s vibe. This game is the stuff that Discord streaming nights are made of. Enemies will drop your character in less than a second, and this ninja person did make getting footage very difficult. And if that isn't enough to make your watch party happy, I was told I can show you some footage.
Frankie, this shit is incredible.
This shit will get you killed.
I'm from Wisconsin.
Wanted Dead is currently 40% off on Steam till October 24th. Use my link in the description or in the pinned comment to get the game while it's hot. The game is also available on PlayStation and Xbox. I know you have some channel on your server where you talk to people, in between the memes you don't look at and the text channel that'll one day ruin your life. Go there and just play it. You will have an experience that surely you have not had before. Thank you again to Wanted Dead for sponsoring this video. The story of Cyberpunk is, up-and-coming mercenary V has their eyes set to the stars and wants to be a Night City legend. In an effort to climb the ladder, V and their accomplice break into the Arasaka Corporation to steal a rare biochip. And if that didn't sound like a stupid idea to begin with, wait till you hear how poorly it goes. In a moment of desperation, V hides the biochip in their head and it gets stuck there. This chip was carrying a personality on it, which is slowly overwriting their own, eventually killing them and replacing them with old Night City legend and terrorist Johnny Silverhand. So V has to embark on a quest to remove this biochip in time and become a legend. Basically, it's the plot of Flowers for Algernon where the protagonist is Giorno Giovanna. The story of Cyberpunk 2077 is one of ambition, mortality, and late-stage capitalism, but also in a world where it feels appropriate to say late-stage capitalism. The actual beats of the story may not be as free-flowing as you'd like, but there are very few things that have lived up to that expectation. I'll get into the meat of why I really like it later. Hell, that will end up being a lot of the video, because any story where Keanu Reeves tells me to kill rich people is alright in my book. Cyberpunk sells its world in every bit, down to the hundreds of slang words Mike Pondsmith wrote while inhaling a can of fresh air. You basically swim in cathartic violence and misty neon streets. The protagonist, V, is a weird blend of Geralt of Rivia and the default Facebook profile photo. You technically create V. You mesh together their background, look, combat style, and very own blend of penis. But V has a personality despite the fact that you supposedly built it. V is a sly, confident person with a lot of street smarts. They'll confront a lot of opportunities with sarcasm, but it's clear they've got their eyes set higher. They're a GTA protagonist with a GPU in their brain. V very obviously has people they care about and goals to achieve. You can't have a game where V doesn't get along with Jackie, a world where being someone isn't important to them, which makes it weird as an RPG. You are effectively on this character's rails. This is not your journey through Night City, but your journey with a person in Night City. With the same breath though, I can't say that I'm not attached to V. The protagonist's got a lot of charm. They tend to give enough shit so they don't end up as some obnoxious yes man who hoovers up quests. And V's low moments are acted with real pain. Even if you aren't set with V's gangstar dreams, you can empathize with their ticking clock. V only has a few weeks to live, maybe a month if they stretch it out. The poor fuck says, "You telling me I'm dying, Doc?" with the same level of authenticity as a small child in the hospital when Spider-Man walks in. Yes, Cyberpunk is a role-playing game, but that term has been through a lot. If you can pick between a health or damage upgrade, it's a role-playing element, and if you trim off that last word, you can fit it on the back of the box. Baldur's Gate 3 is out, and D&D is officially a household name again. That isn't saying that Cyberpunk needs to reach Baldur's Gate's insane level. It reaches an insane level all its own. I'm just saying that now I know what a pure shot of RPG tastes like. I'd say this is maybe 40 proof. For this video I played with 3 characters, and while you can't really build V's story, you can build the way they kill. Though admittedly one of these characters I made a while ago, and another was built up just to play Phantom Liberty. My first V was specialized in speedy reflexes with a pistol, stealth, and a load of quick hacks to melt people's minds. My second V was a brick shithouse that walked around with an LMG, or, if he was in the mood, a stun-locking shotgun. Instead of quick hacks, his heart could decide to resuscitate itself for more stun locking. I also played differently. The first V was the kind of guy to be shrewd but compassionate, while V2 was more aggressive and easy to provoke, and V3 had drinks with Idris Elba. Frankly, I didn't notice a lot of difference in the story. Before we get to the role-playing systems, I need to set some ground. I recorded this playthrough in both states because my passion drives me. If you are, for some reason, unaware, Cyberpunk 2077 received a massive update that changed a large portion of its gameplay and graphics. I played before the new patch that reworked everything, and after. And thank God I did, because it gave me a perspective on the game I wouldn't have had otherwise. Cyberpunk's combat was like this. You walk in a room and get lit up with 300 bullets, and you spam the heal button because you have 20 inhalers. And the enemies all have inhalers in their fucking pockets, so you can always get more. You repeat this process. Shoot, take damage, inhaler. Shoot, take damage, inhaler. This meant the combat was something like a tug of war, where you try to blast them to pieces while viciously out-healing their damage. The Overwatch 2 brand of combat. The 2.0 update changed that. Your inhaler has 2 charges in it that replenish over time. Without the abundance of healing, you get forced to play a lot more methodically. You can't walk into your enemies and eat their shots while turning your bloodstream into pure neosporin. It pushes you to commit to certain tactics. You will sometimes end up in situations where you wait behind cover for a full minute to heal again, but will be slightly more optimistic. If you want to be told what to think, the new combat update is an upgrade in almost every single way. The role-playing upgrades, though, that's a bit different. Cyberpunk has 5 stats: body, reflexes, technical ability, intelligence, and cool. Body controls shotguns, LMGs, and your health. Reflexes for submachine guns and dodging. Cool for pistols and stealth. Technical ability for grenades. And intelligence for hacking. And the entire skill tree has been retooled. This is what it looked like before. This is what it looked like now. Though one thing that did kind of annoy me was that reflexes used to govern pistols. And this update put all those points in cool. So now I suddenly had 20 points in reflexes that I didn't fucking need. They did respec, but that kind of set the tone. That tone being, you should probably start a new file if you want to play this patch per the manufacturer's instructions. Once I fired up Cyberpunk 2.0, both of those 2 characters I talked about shifted pretty dramatically. My first character could no longer be a jack of all trades. One element of the kit had to be removed, so I gutted the stealth. Now my plan would be to hack in to sincerely fuck everyone up, then finish them off with my pistol, the Aiden Pierce tech. The reflexes I had did end up coming in handy, as it gave me a quick dash move, something the first Cyberpunk version really sucked sucked at was that if you didn't spec in a ton of health or stealth, you would get melted in a heartbeat. The reworked reflexes system fixes that by increasing your ability to dodge bullets. And all it cost was turning the game into Dark Souls. So yeah, give Cyberpunk 2077 another try, provided you want to delete some games, go through a lengthy install, find the time of day to invest in it, try to reorient where you were in the game, remember what your goals were, find the energy to care again, and fuck it, just watch a YouTube video, that's instant. The more powerful V gets, the more options you have available to you. The encounters start off very stale. V runs in and starts shooting, and you try to make their numbers go down while occasionally hitting the button that makes your numbers go up. Then you level up, find new weapons, spec into different cyberware until you found the right approach. In the late game, there was one time I was hired to assassinate a guy in a busy nightclub, which would have involved a lot of sneaking and shooting and inevitably indulging my addiction. Then I realized there was a camera network, so I jacked in, found where he was, and inflicted cyberpsychosis on him, which causes him to attack everyone nearby, including his numerous bodyguards. And once I uploaded it onto him, I just casually made my way out through the nightclub before they could trace the hack back to me. It was like the game turned into Hitman and let me pull off a complicated special kill with my own kit. Side quests in Cyberpunk are about as detailed as the main story. Each one introduces new characters, each one with their own motivations and principles. Side quests don't involve anything more spectacular than what you'd be doing otherwise, but they tend to add a really cool framing to those things. Like, yeah, this is just a bandit camp, but it's a bandit camp that's got a van you saw fleeing a politician's apartment, who may or may not have been brainwashing him and his wife. There's tons of non-combat ones too. Maybe a side quest isn't just killing a gang, maybe it's a funeral for a character you might have liked. Scenarios that the game puts their entire back into. I know there's no top 10 funeral scenes in gaming, but Cyberpunk seems to want number 1. Even the throwaway gig quests have a lot of work put into them, all opening with a lengthy phone call and text message explaining the whole thing, sometimes even ending in complex moral dilemmas. And the best part is that you don't have to give a fuck about any of it. Sometimes killing this terrorist Yakuza kingpin isn't about making Kabuki safer, it's about putting 300 experience points in my pocket. You will get encumbered with a lot of them, because despite living in Night City for several years, if not their whole life, V will still turn their head when someone they're walking past says, "Hey buddy!" If my footage is anything to go by, the game is almost a fucking walking simulator. Combat happens maybe once an hour. A lot of my time in 2077 was spent wandering the city. On a bad day, I could do this for hours. Night City is one of the most intricate and exciting places I've ever been in, and yes, that does include the amazing world of Metal Gear Survive. Night City feels so weirdly lived in. Something I've become interested in lately is art within art. Like some guy slaved over this intricate animation that you can totally walk past. It's why you turn your head at the random guitar songs played on the street. Then turn your head at those videos on YouTube that stretch those guitar songs out to an hour. The districts of Night City are very distinct from one another. The city center has tons of skyscrapers and corpos walking around. Kabuki is a neon-lit trash-field paradise straight out of Blade Runner. Down south there are more residential areas and theme parks. Gameplay elements swap around too. Each part of the city has a different gang that runs there. If you go up north, you'll run into the Maelstrom, who invest in heavy cyberware and large artillery. The Voodoo Boys in Pacifico will have hackers nearby to melt your brain. Kabuki's Asian gangs will have fast melee-focused enemies. Westbrook has a fixer with this whack-ass haircut. However, in the same breath that I praise Cyberpunk here, I have to complain a little. The worm compels me to. You can technically pick out strategies to counter each of the gangs, but also, hear me out. Pick the hottest iron you have with the highest number, then click on them. Cyberpunk can often end up too complex for its own good, or maybe it's not good at making individual elements stand out. You can scan a goon and find every single detail about him, which should make for varied encounters, yet all of it gets thrown at you in one go. So instead of taking your time to parse out the best strategy, you spam your damage in them and just use what's on hand. Then you have the side characters like Judy Alvarez, River Ward, Pan Am Palmer, and Hideshi Hino. Each one will show you another side of the city. Pan Am's quests will take you outside to the wastelands, while someone like Kerry will show off NC's richer side. One of the game's favorite pastimes is making an NPC drive a car while you talk to them, so you can sit in the passenger seat and oogle at the city without the fucking objective markers everywhere. Night City isn't just pretty. It uses that beauty with purpose. There's an emphasis on lighting and smoky textures that really bring the game up. Hell, some of the late game areas actually blew me away. And that's just the metropolitan area. There's a garbage field almost as big as Night City that is wonky and uncomfortable to traverse. If you end up missing out on one of the roads, you can end up jumping into this sea of geometry garbage, which is the first time Game Jank has ever contributed to an environmental message. This trash field is almost half the city's size, maybe larger. I don't know. I can't get a look at all of it. It's just unimaginable waste that gets churned out by the output of Night City. The only thing you'll find is the second biggest piece of garbage in the whole game. And the only reason you have to go all the way out here to find it is because the #1 prize winner is in your fucking head. The relationship between Johnny and V is the core of the entire plot. In almost every scenario possible, Johnny will walk out of nowhere to comment on things. Any quest, main, or side will be mixed in with Johnny's take on it. Johnny does stand to gain a second shot at a full life through the biochip, and he's always changing his mind on that. Sometimes he wants V to live a happy life, sometimes he wants to drop another nuke on Night City. People will warn you that Johnny wants to take you over, that he'll lie and try to trick you, which creates this insanely palpable drama between even the player and Johnny. See, if you want to think about it in a more literal sense, V isn't truly dying, they're just becoming Silverhand. If Johnny takes over, they wouldn't care, they'd still be alive, just not themselves. Johnny isn't actually there, he's a program. Data encrypted to look like a person. Johnny isn't actually talking to V in any more of a way than I am talking to you. The thing I really love about Johnny is that if you want to be on his good side, you can't kiss his ass. Johnny is a real piece of work. He's manipulative, condescending, and will walk all over you if you let him. If you truly aim to be a choomba, you gotta call him out and be willing to forgive him. You can't just spam kindness at Johnny, otherwise you just become another groupie that says anything. The story does have some bad in it. The worm is talking again. Cyberpunk sets up a very strong antagonist, then we never actually get to play with him. He stays behind a wall for the whole plot. 2077 does the same thing with Atom Smasher, a giant cyberware monster that serves as Night City's ruthless killing machine that you're supposed to be afraid of. Meaning when I actually fought the guy, and don't you fucking worry, I will tell you all about that, it was like they wheeled out a 1,000-year-old WWE villain. Now we're at the part that actually justifies this video. The part that added an extra 2 weeks to this. Phantom Liberty. It would have been easy to just cover the base game, but no, I had to spend another 30 hours doing spy espionage. Phantom Liberty is a massive expansion that pivots into Cyberpunk's politics. The expansion takes place in Dogtown, a part that is segregated from the rest of the city, governed by itself, but not doing a great job of that. The president crash lands here and the two of you have to survive the Night City Autonomous Zone. Yes, the president. A person that is violent, casual, and sits in a baseball hat passing you beer. But actually, for as hard as the game opens, she's not what the plot is about. The crux of the DLC is between So-Mi and Solomon Reed, two government agents. So-Mi, or Songbird, is an extremely talented netrunner, someone who dives onto the web to exploit the cybernetics built into Night City, even those of other people. Imagine if a wizard needed 5G. The other character is Solomon Reed, played by Idris Elba, a sleeper agent. Songbird has a similar affliction to V without the talking superstar in her head. She also has a cure for the both of them in mind. So V wants to save Songbird to save their own hide, and Reed wants to save Songbird because he mentored her, resulting in a James Bond-esque plot. You go to fancy parties, scope things out with a sniper, infiltrate towers, engage in high-stakes conversations with powerful politicians. The thing about Phantom Liberty is that it isn't so much a side story to Cyberpunk, it's a branch in the narrative that goes in an entirely new direction. It offers a new ending, and your V will be 10 levels higher when it's over. Meaning that the regular story was just pushed so far off its balance that it is also, again, like Final Fantasy 15. I'll let it go, I swear I'll let it go. The crux of the DLC is between So-Mi and Reed. It's effectively a commentary on loyalty to your country. Johnny doesn't have that much agency in this, but he does open up about his experience in the military, trying to push V in certain directions. Especially since if So-Mi's plan works, the government is willing to pluck him out of your head like he was a bad dream. I watched a review on a professional gaming site that said the new ending felt like the conclusive one, which, okay. Let's see about that. We're going to talk about both the ending of Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty and the base game, and fuck it, the anime too. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, go here. And after you've gone there, go literally anywhere else. The last act twist is that Songbird's cure is one use only. Saves one person. V is out of luck if they help her. See, Reed doesn't just want to save So-Mi because he misses her. She's got secrets that make her a threat to national security. She has to come with him and probably die. And in exchange for So-Mi, Reed will hook V up with a good doctor, the finest the government has. Or V can be selfless and send So-Mi up to space to get that cure. I'm cutting out a lot here. The game has tons of turns depending on how you pick between these two characters. You either give Songbird that cure and kill Reed yourself, or you hand her over to him and save yourself. If you do that, V walks right back out to Night City, only to get a call from Reed a little bit later. He explains that he feels guilty about handing over So-Mi, but he promises that he can save you. The government can wipe Johnny out of V's skull. Hand over So-Mi, wait a bit, take a ride, meet Reed, talk about your regrets, then take a flight over to DC. Then you wake up 2 fucking years later. Your character is alive. V survived the biochip. Johnny is just gone. Reed comes in and says, guess what? You will live a full life. The only threat to that is if you try to use any cyberware, the stuff that has been dictating our stats, our fighting prowess, and our identity. What this means is that V gets their life back, but they'll have to accept that they'll never become a legend. For Johnny, this means there's no path forwards for him at all. He's just data to be deleted. You go back to Night City and it's cruel to you. It doesn't recognize you, it spits you out. You have to be a faceless member of the crowd and live a quiet but long life. This ending fucking sucks. The message is okay, I think. I really don't know. I just know it's not the one I want out of this game. So you know what I say? I say we send Songbird to get that cure instead. We use the Cyberpunk equivalent of black magic to wipe out the FBI, wreak havoc through an airport taking all that they have. For all of Reed's subdermal armor, he falls to a single right click. You walk out with nothing but the idea that you saved someone else. But that doesn't save you, and it doesn't mean the game is over. We're rolling up with the Don't Fear the Reaper ending. The secret ending in Cyberpunk 2077, or the Don't Fear the Reaper ending is, in my opinion, the most fitting conclusion to the Cyberpunk story. The only problem is that very few people have done it because it is locked under pure fucking nonsense. It requires a certain chain of actions with Johnny Silverhand, completing all of his side quests, choosing a specific series of dialogue options at a pivotal moment, and then waiting roughly 5 minutes at the final choice. In order to get this, V and Johnny have to be true friends. But, like we said, that's not just spamming the options he wants to hear. The player needs to be someone who treated Johnny as both a man seeking redemption and a total threat to V's life. And apparently, that someone was me. Outside of waiting the whole 5 minutes, on my first playthrough I did on that wretched PS4 save file, I had accidentally fulfilled the requirements of this. But first I need to set some very basic groundwork of how we got to this point. The only other way to remove that biochip is going to Arasaka Tower. Inside their basement, they have a data fortress known as Mikoshi, something protected by the hardest security corpo money can buy. There are a couple of ways we can go about getting down here, which will determine the ending you get. To cut something very complicated into bits and pieces, down there you need to plug in an AI named Alt Cunningham, Johnny's ex-girlfriend. She's conspiring to make a revolution of AI that run away, and look, it's basically taking every AI in the world and going up to the farm. You go through hell to get this, only for Alt to tell V that there is no fully saving them. The damage the biochip has done to them is irreversible. The best they can do is buy 6 months of time. V asks for something happier, and we get the coldest fucking line in fiction I've ever heard.
Yes, I meant. I know. A happier ending. For everyone involved. Here, for folks like us. Wrong city. Wrong people.
3 of the endings are related to the opening life paths. There's an ending where V sides with the Nomads, letting go of being a Night City legend and taking what time they have left to spend with their found family. The Street Kid ending involves V letting Johnny Silverhand use their body with his old crew and storming Arasaka. V still gets the ticking clock, but chooses to cement their life as a legend, going on a giant heist that will kill them, but also immortalize them in fame. The Corpo ending has you side with Arasaka, as they take Johnny out, but they also hold you hostage on the moon. So what happens if you have a strong bond with Johnny, and you don't want to do any of those options? Well, you wait 5 minutes trying to pick which ending before Johnny tells you this.
Kinda tough deciding which of your friends get to die, isn't it? Good news is you got this one chum who's already dead. And he'd be honored to join you on a wild suicide run. You, me, and Arasaka Tower. Kinda sounds like a Eurodyne lyric, I know, but trust me, we'll go fucking Nova.
If you accept his proposition, you storm Arasaka alone. Just you, Johnny, and the toughest enemies in the game.
Time to party like it's 2023.
If V falls here, it's treated like you got the bad ending, where all of V's friends call, shocked that V chose to go out like this. It'd be tragic if it didn't mean having to start from the credits again. And it's very kind of CD Projekt Red to not only require a complex chain of actions to get here, but also to maybe want the player to be max level. This ending will cut you down so much. V will die and die and die. I can explain the whole thing because I died and died and died. First, you get into a shootout with absolutely zero cover, so you need to pop these heads before you're mowed down. Then they drop 2 giant mechs, and I have no idea how you're supposed to beat them without the cyber psychosis hack. But fuck you, here's a swarm of new guys and maybe 4 bits of cover now. Then you have to break into the server room with turrets, cameras, and a locked door that will only open for the enemies behind you. Also, here's a long hallway of robots that want to turn you into paste. I hope you've got enough RAM for cyber psychosis again and again and again. By the way, at this point you might realize that your health is dropping and not healing as much. Every minute or two, the biochip glitches out, permanently removing some of V's health. Great, cool. If you want to stay behind cover too much trying to recharge that inhaler, I hope you like fighting the final boss with 160 points of health. Also, just for fun, they're gonna drop more robots on you. Mess with the mainframe? Oh, more robots and a minigunner who is bugged out and won't leave the area he spawns in. The room cools down. Johnny tells you he didn't think you'd make it this far, and I said, I know you didn't. You try to open the door and out of nowhere, here he comes. Adam Smasher, a man that has so much cyberware that he's just a brain in a jar. Apparently in the original D&D campaign, this was the guy that got pulled out if you had killed the DM's favorite NPC, which is to say he is the most literal form of rocks fall, everyone dies. He can chase you for a large swipe attack, so you just back up trying to kill him, until he summons snipers that surround the entire room, which killed me so much that I stopped recording, went outside, and had to breathe real air for a change. You need to both keep Smasher from catching up to you and find a moment to shoot those snipers. But also, Smasher has a minigun attack, so if you make enough distance and lose track of him, you're dead. Thankfully, there are turrets you can turn to your side, which will buy you maybe a minute. Oh my god, he got fucking stuck, thank god. Plug me in. Tell me there's no saving me, I'm broken inside. I probably should have done this with 10 more levels under my belt, but this video has already taken me too long. I want it done. Adam is dead. I didn't win fair and square, but I did win. After hating this game's bugs for the past 3 years, I was saved by one. In this ending, V truly becomes a legend. They stormed Arasaka, they killed Smasher, they still die, but they're making the most out of the world they live in, which is such an awesome way for the story to wrap up. Finally, the game doesn't suck, right? Well, Cyberpunk was always good. Sorta. This plotline was always there. It just had to be mined through pure attrition. Cyberpunk on its release was a disaster. I would really have rathered this just been a new release in 2023. Which means, yeah, you probably shouldn't forgive or forget this either. But that doesn't mean you have to be a fucking psychopath. Just don't pre-order it next time. That's all you gotta do. Let the reviews roll in and see if they pulled the same nonsense. You don't need to make an anti-Cyberpunk Twitter account to valiantly fight in the trenches. Believe it or not, when stuff is this stupid, you can actually fight back in very calm and reasonable ways. Believe it or not, after all I've said, I believe you're smarter than that. Hey, thanks for watching. Before we get going, I'd like to thank the people on Patreon who make videos like this possible. I would especially like to thank MarioFan997, Daniel Askew, Sparkbolt120, Pyrozine, Rekren, Colorado Ranger, Tracy Leroy, Mr. Macaroni Man, Ethan Blow, Sturmfetter, Mint Skull, Coldeneye 1, My Reed, Awker, Anthony R. Chambers, Average, Jonah Simpson, and Ethan A. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.